Jatropha curcas is a species of flowering plant in the spurge family, Euphorbiaceae, that is native to the American tropics, most likely Mexico and Central America. It is cultivated in tropical and subtropical regions around the world, becoming naturalized in some areas. The specific epithet, curcas, was first used by Portuguese Dr. Garcia de Orta more than 400 years ago and is of uncertain origin. Common names include Barbados nut, purging nut, physic nut, or JCL. J. curcas is a poisonous, semi-evergreen shrub or small tree, reaching a height of 6 m. It is resistant to a high degree of aridity, allowing it to be grown in deserts. The seeds contain 27 to 40% oil that can be processed to produce a high-quality biodiesel fuel, usable in a standard diesel engine. The seeds are also a source of the highly poisonous toxalbumin curcin or jatrophin. Botanical features: leaves. The leaves have significant variability in their morphology. In general, the leaves are green to pale green, alternate to subopposite, and 3 to 5 lobed with a spiral phyllotaxis. Flowers: male and female flowers are produced on the same inflorescence, averaging 20 male flowers to each female flower, or 10 male flowers to each female flower. The petiole length ranges from 6.1 to 23.1 mm. The inflorescence can be formed in the leaf axil. Plants are monoecious and also presents hermaphroditic flowers occasionally. Fruits are produced in winter, or there may be several crops during the year if soil moisture is good and temperatures are sufficiently high. Most fruit production is concentrated from midsummer to late fall with variations in production peaks where some plants have 2 or 3 harvests and some produce continuously through the season. Seeds: the seeds are mature when the capsule changes from green to yellow. The seeds contain around 20% saturated fatty acids and 80% unsaturated fatty acids, and they yield 25% to 40% oil by weight. In addition, the seeds contain other chemical compounds, such as saccharose, raffinose, stachose, glucose, fructose, galactose, and protein. The oil is largely made up of oleic and linoleic acids. Furthermore, the plant also contains quercetin, arachidic, myristic, palmitic, and stearic acids and curcin. Genome: the whole genome was sequenced by Kazusa DNA Research Institute, Chiba, Japan in October 2010. Cultivation: cultivation is uncomplicated. Jatropha curcas grows in tropical and subtropical regions. The plant can grow in wastelands and grows on almost any terrain, even on gravelly, sandy and saline soils. It can thrive in poor and stony soils, although new research suggests that the plant's ability to adapt to these poor soils is not as extensive as had been previously stated. Complete germination is achieved within 9 days. Adding manure during the germination has negative effects during that phase, but is favorable if applied after germination is achieved. It can be propagated by cuttings, which yields faster results than multiplication by seeds. The flowers only develop terminally, so a good ramification produces the greatest amount of fruits. The plants are self-compatible. Another productivity factor is the ratio between female and male flowers within an inflorescence. More female flowers mean more fruits. Jatropha curcas thrives on a mere 250 mm of rain a year, and only during its first 2 years does it need to be watered in the closing days of the dry season. Plowing and planting are not needed regularly, as this shrub has a life expectancy of approximately 40 years. The use of pesticides is not necessary, due to the pesticidal and fungicidal properties of the plant. It is used in rural Bengal for dobi itch. While Jatropha curcas starts yielding from 9 to 12 months' time, the best yields are obtained only after 2 to 3 years' time. The seed production is around 3.5 tons per hectare. If planted in hedges, the reported productivity of Jatropha is from 0.8 to 1.0 kg of seed per meter of live fence. Propagation: Jatropha curcas has limited natural vegetative propagation and is usually propagated by seed. Propagation through seed leads to a lot of genetic variability in terms of growth, biomass, Seed yield and oil content. Low seed viability and the recalcitrant nature of oil seeds also limits seed propagation. However, clonal techniques can help in overcoming these problems that hinder mass propagation of this tree-borne oilseed species. Vegetative propagation has been achieved by stem cuttings, grafting, budding as well as by air layering techniques. The investigation leads to the recommendation that cuttings should be taken preferably from juvenile plants and treated with 200 microgram per liter of IBA to ensure the highest level of rooting in stem cuttings. These vegetative methods have potential for commercial propagation of these plants. Gallery processing. Seed extraction is made simple with the use of the universal nutsheller, an appropriate technology designed by the Full Belly Project. Oil content varies from 28% to 30% and 80% extraction. 1 hectare of plantation will give 400 to 600 liters of oil if the soil is average. The oily seeds are processed into oil, which may be used directly to fuel combustion engines or may be subjected to transesterification to produce biodiesel. Jatropha oil is not suitable for human consumption, as it induces strong vomiting and diarrhea. A colorant can also be derived from the seed. Uses biofuel. When Jatropha seeds are crushed, the resulting Jatropha oil can be processed to produce a high-quality biofuel or biodiesel that can be used in a standard diesel car or further processed into jet fuel, while the residue can also be used as biomass feedstock to power electricity plants, used as fertilizer, or as animal fodder. The cake can also be used as feed in digesters and gasifiers to produce biogas. There are several forms of biofuel, often manufactured using sedimentation, centrifugation, and filtration. The fats and oils are turned into esters while separating the glycerin. At the end of the process, the glycerin settles and the biofuel floats. The process through which the glycerin is separated from the biodiesel is known as transesterification. Glycerin is another byproduct from Jatropha oil processing that can add value to the crop. Transesterification is a simple chemical reaction that neutralizes the free fatty acids present in any fatty substances in Jatropha. A chemical exchange takes place between the alkoxy groups of an ester compound by an alcohol. Usually, methanol and ethanol are used for the purpose. The reaction occurs by the presence of a catalyst, usually sodium hydroxide or caustic soda and potassium hydroxide, which forms fatty esters, commonly known as biodiesel. It takes approximately 10% of methyl alcohol by weight of the fatty substance to start the transesterification process. Estimates of Jatropha seed yield vary widely, due to a lack of research data, the genetic diversity of the crop, the range of environments in which it is grown, and Jatropha's perennial life cycle. Seed yields under cultivation can range from 1,500 to 2,000 kilograms per hectare, corresponding to extractable oil yields of 540 to 680 liters per hectare. In 2009, Time magazine cited the potential for as much as 1,600 gallons of diesel fuel per acre per year. The plant may yield more than 4 times as much fuel per hectare as soybean, and more than 10 times that of maize, but at the same time it requires 5 times as much water per unit of energy produced as does corn. A hectare of Jatropha has been claimed to produce 1,892 liters of fuel. However, as it has not yet been domesticated or improved by plant breeders, yields are variable. Jatropha can also be intercropped with other cash crops such as coffee, sugar, fruits and vegetables. In 2007, Goldman Sachs cited Jatropha curcas as one of the best candidates for future biodiesel production. However, despite its abundance and use as an oil and reclamation plant, none of the Jatropha species has been properly domesticated and, as a result, its productivity is variable, and the long-term impact of its large-scale use on soil quality and the environment is unknown. In 2008, researchers at Daimler Chrysler Research explored the use of Jatropha oil for automotive use, concluding that although Jatropha oil as fuel has not yet reached optimal quality, it already fulfills the EU norm for biodiesel quality. Archer Daniels Midland Company, Bayer Crop Science and Daimler AG have a joint project to develop Jatropha as a biofuel. 3 Mercedes cars powered by Jatropha diesel have already put some 30,000 kilometers behind them. The project is supported by Daimler Chrysler and by the German Association for Investment and Development. Jet fuel, aviation fuels may be more widely replaced by biofuels such as Jatropha oil than fuels for other forms of transportation. There are fewer planes than cars or trucks and far fewer jet fueling stations to convert than gas stations. On December 30, 2008, Air New Zealand flew the first successful test flight from Auckland with a Boeing 747 running one of its 4 Rolls-Royce engines on a 50-50 blend of Jatropha oil and Jet A1 fuel. In the same press release, Air New Zealand announced plans to use the new fuel for 10% of its needs by 2013. At the time of this test, Jatropha oil was much cheaper than crude oil, costing an estimated $43 a barrel or about one-third of the June 4, 2008 closing price of $122.30 for a barrel of crude oil. On January 7, 2009 Continental Airlines successfully completed a test flight from Houston, Texas using a 50/50 mixture of algae Jatropha oil-derived biofuel and Jet A in one of the 2 CFM56 engines of a Boeing 737-800 next-generation jet. The 2-hour test flight could mark another promising step for the airline industry to find cheaper and more environmentally friendly alternatives to fossil fuel. On April 1, 2011 Interjet completed the first Mexican aviation biofuels test flight on an Airbus A320. The fuel was a 70-30 traditional jet fuel by jet blend produced from Jatropha oil provided by 3 Mexican producers, Global Energas Renovables, Bencofer and Energy JHSA. Honeywell's UOP processed the oil into BioSPK. Global Energas Renovables operates the largest Jatropha farm in the Americas. On October 28, 2011 Air China completed the first successful demonstration flight by a Chinese airline that used Jatropha-based biofuel. The mixture was a 50-50 mix of conventional jet fuel blended with Jatropha oil from China National Petroleum Corporation. The 747-400 powered one of its 4 engines on the fuel mixture during the 1-hour flight around Beijing Airport. Carbon dioxide sequestration, according to a 2013 study published by the European Geosciences Union, the Jatropha tree may have applications in the absorption of carbon dioxide, whose sequestration is regarded by some as important in combating climate change. This small tree is very resistant to aridity, so it can be planted in hot and dry land in soil and suitable for food production. The plant does need water to grow though, so coastal areas where desalinated seawater can be made available are ideal. Use in developing world. Currently the oil from Jatropha curcas seeds is used for making biodiesel fuel in Philippines, Pakistan and in Brazil, where it grows naturally, and in plantations in the southeast, north, and northeast of Brazil. Likewise, Jatropha oil is being promoted as an easily grown biofuel crop in hundreds of projects throughout India and other developing countries. Large plantings and nurseries have been undertaken in India by many research institutions, and by women's self-help groups who use a system of microcredit to ease poverty among semi-literate Indian women. The railway line between Mumbai and Delhi is planted with Jatropha, and the train itself runs on 15 to 20% biodiesel. In Africa, cultivation of Jatropha is being promoted, and it is grown successfully in countries such as Mali. In the Gran Chaco of Paraguay, where a native variety also grows, studies have shown the suitability of Jatropha cultivation, and agro-producers are starting to consider planting in the region. Burma is also actively pursuing the use of Jatropha oil. On December 15, 2005, then head of state, Senior General than SHWE, said Earth states and divisions concerned are to put 50,000 acres under the physic nut plants, Jatropha each within 3 years, totaling 700,000 acres during the period Euro. On the occasion of Burma unregistered trademark as Peasant Day 2006, then SHWE described in his message that a OE for energy sector, which is an essential role in transforming industrial agriculture system, The government is encouraging for cultivation of physic nut plants nationwide, and the technical know-how that can refine physic nuts to biodiesel has also identified he would like to urge peasants to cultivate physic nut plants on a commercial scale, with major aims for emergence of industrial agriculture system, for fulfilling rural electricity supply and energy needs, for supporting rural areas development and import substitute economy. In 2006, the chief research officer at state-run Myanmar Oil and Gas Enterprise said Burma hoped to completely replace the country's oil imports of 40,000 barrels a day with home-brewed, Jatropha-derived biofuel. Other government officials declared Burma would soon start exporting Jatropha oil. Despite the military's efforts, the Jatropha campaign apparently has largely flopped in its goal of making Burma self-sufficient in fuel. ZGS Bioenergy has started Jatropha plantation projects in northern Shan State. The company has begun planting Jatropha plants during late June 2007 and will start producing seeds by 2010. Controversies. As of 2011, skepticism about the miracle properties of Jatropha has been voiced. For example, the idea that Jatropha can be grown on marginal land is a red herring, according to Harry Staunton, Business Development Director of UK-based Some Biofuels, which cultivates Jatropha in Mozambique and Tanzania. It does grow on marginal land, but if you use marginal land you'll get marginal yields, he said. An August 2010 article warned about the actual utility and potential dangers of reliance on Jatropha in Kenya. Major concerns included its invasiveness, which could disrupt local biodiversity, as well as damage to water catchment areas. Jatropha curcas is lauded as being sustainable, and that its production would not compete with food production, but the Jatropha plant needs water like every other crop to grow. This could create competition for water between the Jatropha and other edible food crops. In fact, Jatropha requires 5 times more water per unit of energy than sugarcane and corn. Other uses leaves. The young leaves may be safely eaten, steamed or stewed. Cooked with goat meat, they are said to advantageously counteract its smell. Pounded leaves are applied near horses' eyes to repel flies in India. Hydrogen cyanide is present in the leaves. The extracts of the plants are dangerous to use, but water can easily release it over if not too much extract is applied. Flowers. The species is listed as a honey plant. Hydrogen cyanide is present. Nuts can be construed for home cooking fuel in briquette form, replacing charcoalized timber as in Haiti. Sometimes roasted and eaten, although they are purgative. They can be burned like candle nuts when strung on grass. HCN is present. Used as a contraceptive in South Sudan. Seeds. Interest exists in producing animal feed from the bio-waste once the oil is expressed, as in the case with Haiti, where Jatropha curcas grows prolifically and animal feed is in very short supply. Similarly, Mitzian in the Haitian culture dates back as a medicinal crop, thus the name Mitzian/Mitzian. Some suggest it calms the stomach. Some mention of Mitzian being used to ward off evil spirits in past Haitian culture where voodoo has been losing adherents for Christian faith. Also used as a contraceptive in South Sudan. The oil has been used for illumination, soap, candles, the adulteration of olive oil, and making turkey red oil. Turkey red oil, also called sulfonated castor oil, is the only oil that completely disperses in water. It is made by adding sulfuric acid to pure Jatropha oil. It was the first synthetic detergent after ordinary soap, as this allows easy use for making bath oil products. It is used in formulating lubricants, softeners, and dyeing assistants. The seeds in the zone around Misantla, Veracruz are very appreciated by the population as food once they have been boiled and roasted. It is unclear if this is due to the existence of a non-toxic variety of Jatropha in Mexico and Central America, or if the seeds become edible once processed by cooking. It is also similarly reported that Jatropha seeds are edible once the embryo has been removed. Again, it may be so because of these seeds coming from a local non-toxic variety. HCN is present. Roots, their ashes are used as a salt substitute. HCN and rotenone are present. Bark, used as a fish poison. HCN is present. Latex, strongly inhibits the watermelon mosaic virus. Sap, it stains linen. Sometimes used for marking. Shrub, Mexicans grow the shrub as a host for the lac insect, which is used in medicine as hepatoprotective and anti-obesity drug. Used for erosion control. See also, Jatropha, energy crop, non-food crop. References. Further reading, Bright-Ain, R. and Lutaladio, N. 2010. Jatropha, a smallholder bioenergy crop, the potential for pro-poor development. Integrated Crop Management. Volume 8. FAO, Rome, ISBN 972-92-5-106438-2. External links, Polgreen, Lydia. Malaya unregistered trademark S. Farmers discover a weed unregistered trademark S. potential power. New York Times. Retrieved September 9, 2007. Integrated Taxonomic Information System Jatropha curcas in West African plants a photo guide.